Hello and welcome. Here is another edition of BOI Weekly. I'm Kayode Alayande. There have been multilateral conversations at different levels, at different times, and by different groups about the way forward for Nigeria, especially now that it has found itself in a recession. Recently, the business hallmark newspapers organized one of such occasions here in Lagos. It was its public policy forum titled Restituting the Past for a Greater Nigeria. The executive governor of Ogun State, Ibikunle Amosun, was invited to deliver the lecture, after which prominent Nigerians and authorities in their own different rights were asked to discuss the talking points. The Bank of Industry and its role in empowering local producers and manufacturers in the country, which is a major component of economic recovery, makes it an integral part of this sort of conversation. The acting MD CEO, Bank of Industry, Mr. Wahid Olagunju, was one of the discussants. It was both an intellectually stimulating and thought-provoking session. Stay close.
The agricultural sector due to limited processing and preservation capacity. This results in high food prices and food importation, with its attendant effects on the nation's foreign reserves. To enable Nigerians optimize the benefits from the country's vast agricultural products such as cassava, oil palm, rice, tomatoes, and others, the Bank of Industry has launched a 5 billion naira cottage agro-processing fund, the CAP Fund. Customers can access the fund to establish plans to process our various agro-produce into food products or intermediate raw materials for industries at a single-digit interest rate of 9% per annum. For more information on the CAP Fund, please visit www.boinigeria.com/capfund. Bank of Industry, developing Nigeria's agro-processing industry through the CAP Fund.
This is the Business Hallmark newspaper public policy forum held recently. The lecture is titled Restituting the Past for a Greater Nigeria. And the idea was to discuss the misdeeds of the past, like bad governance, corruption, fiscal impropriety, and impunity, as well as proper ways forward for hurts from the past and the current challenges. The lecture is as timely and as relevant as its title, and gathered here are former national leaders, a retired general, business executives, politicians, and entrepreneurs. It's no doubt a perfect forum. The chairman of the occasion, a former Minister of Finance, as well as the chairman, Board of Directors, Institute for Policy and Economic Development, Dr. Kalu Idika Kalu, lays the foundation for the lecture. He suggests that Nigeria might be in a much deeper financial challenge than we actually think.
Frankly, I think what we are talking about goes beyond just looking at old practices and seeing what things we can do differently. I have tried over the last few weeks to correct the impression that we can simply say we're in a recession. Recession, because you have 2 consecutive negative GDP growth, is a gross simplification of our condition, because that always presumes where you have a near full equilibrium, full employment, and levels of structural transformation, which we do not have. So we are not really in recession. We have been in a deep depression. We have been operating substantially below our potential growth level. You cannot look at any of the structures of the economy, whether you're talking about infrastructure, or you're talking about the composition of our GDP in terms of how much is coming from agriculture, manufacturing, and the other services, and say this is a country that has got to that level where A mere sudden decline in the terms of trade occasioned by this sharp drop in the oil prices signifies that you are merely going to a recession. In fact, indicators coming from the Office of Statistics indicate that we're actually regressing very, very rapidly. The structures that have not even attained maturity, some of these I have mentioned, have been stunted for quite some time. Major areas, power, I think we all know about power. I'll just link to some rather pathetic, very sad story about how we have power outages at our international airport and how people have to be checked in by torchlight or handsets. The level of power supply is not only abysmally low, but it's even at that level quite unreliable. And if you just look at the structure of power in an inter-industry matrix, where power provides a service to just about every other sector, the same with water, for that matter, the same with motorable roads, railways, ports, and so on and so forth. So I think it's always very, it's more realistic for us to really be honest with where we are, so that when we are talking about restitution or whatever we call it, restitution, we know the tasks that lie ahead. So you can see that Hallmark has chosen a very appropriate topic for this discussion. It's a pity. I wish the hall was overflowing with students and lecturers and businessmen and what have you, because we all need to sit down and take stock. How do we rebuild? Going back to the basics, how do we rebuild? How do we rebuild the tutelage process for developing leadership at the village level, the community level, at the towns and our sprawling, service-starved metropolis all across this nation? This is the task that the present generation has to face.
Next comes the main lecture, and the guest lecturer, the Executive Governor of Ogun State, Senator Ibikunle Amosun, is represented by the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Dr. Olumide Ayeni. In his analysis, he walks his way from the beginning.
What happened during the colonial period when our country attained independence from the British? The socio-economic infrastructure and development were at their infancy. It was thus normal that our political leaders then wanted to demonstrate to the colonial powers that had just departed that they were not only capable of providing effective leadership to their people, which was why they galvanized the same people to struggle for independence. In the different regions, the northern region, headed by Sir Ahmadu Bello, the western region, headed by Chief Obafemi Awolowo, and the eastern region by Chief Michael Okpara. What we had then was a glorious and healthy rivalry among the regions for development. I should add that upon attainment of independence in '63, a fourth region was added from the creation of the old Midwest region from Western region, headed by Chief Dennis Osadebe. Each region was developing at its own pace, based on available resources. Some of us, and I do add here that includes me, will still remember that the sky-touching pyramids of Kano were actually groundnut pyramids arranged with such aesthetics that the name stuck as the groundnut pyramids of Kano. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if we had this glorious era, then the question we should ask ourselves is, where and when did we get it wrong? And this will lead us to some other questions, prominent among which is the discovery of crude oil in Oloibiri in 1956, a blessing or a curse? Some have always opined that the discovery of crude oil is a curse. Their belief is that the discovery of crude oil led to the abandonment of agriculture and the emergence of the attendant social vices that have come with black gold. Have we not been told that where there is gold runs the blood? We left undone the things that are done, that has brought us so much wealth without bloodshed. And that reminds me of that Yoruba idiom that the river that forgets its source will soon dry up.